Hello, in this example we want to see how we can communicate with a server using Redux and how we can handle asynchronous operations. So our server is going to be a really simple server handling CRUD operations over some nodes which only have some content. It also creates some sample data so we have something to work with. Right, so we've started our server and we're just going to leave it at that. As for our front end, we're going to install one additional dependency, which is going to be Redux Promise middleware. So after installing this, we're going to start our application. Now our middleware has to be added to our store. So we're going to go back to store. The application might not work yet. We're going to import Promise from Redux Promise middleware. And we're going to also import apply middleware from Redux. So when we create our store, we're going to create our store of our reducer and apply middleware of some list of middleware, in this case Promise. Now as for our actions, if we go to actions, we have this add node. We don't want to do this, so we just want to get the nodes from the server. So we're gonna say const server. This might be better held in a config file, but we're going to put it here for now. And we're gonna have export function get nodes, which is going to return an action, but this time the action is going to have an asynchronous payload. So the type is going to be get nodes, and the payload is going to be an asynchronous function, which is going to fetch something from the server. So response is fetch server slash nodes. Now the data we're going to, so we forgot to put a wait here, so it's a wait fetch. And the data we're going to get from the response by awaiting response.json, and then we're going to return the data. Okay, now for the reducer. Now the reducer for now reacts to add node. It's going to have to react to something else. So in this case, we're going to have three possible states of the asynchronous operation, so pending, fulfilled, and rejected. And we have to reflect this somehow. So on the one hand, we have nodes, but we also might have an error. Obviously, there's no error initially. Then the promise might be pending, so fetching, and this starts with false, and fetched. Have we previously managed to get data from the server? This is also false. Now, the action types we have to react to are actually dynamic in the sense that we can only see get nodes here, but because of Redux Promise middleware, we actually have three actions. So we'd have get nodes pending, but you also have get nodes fulfilled, and get nodes rejected. Now the state is going to be a bit different also, in the sense that we're going to start from the previous state, but we can no longer do this. What we're going to do is, if it's pending, we have no error for now. Fetching is true, and fetched is false. Now on fulfilled, we start from the previous state, and we know that we have the nodes in action.payload. Fetching is false, and fetched is true. And for rejected, we know that the action payload contains not the nodes but the error. It's fetching false and it's fetched false. And that's it for the reducer. Now getting back to our component, we're going to need a couple more things, in the sense that we're going to need use effect. Since we're going to ignore the form for now, we're not going to need it, nor are we going to need use state. We are going to need the selector and the dispatch. And here we're going to need an action which is going to be get nodes. So what we want to do is, when the node list is first loaded, we want to use an effect. So use effect, and our only dependency is going to be dispatch. And we're going to say dispatch of get nodes. Right, and that should be it. So if we go here, we have a couple of problems, which is we can no longer display based on this. We no longer need the I because we have an ID. So we're gonna say that the key is e.id and this is e.content. And we can now see our nodes.